all. I hope all of you are at home with your family, with your loved ones, and safe. Given whatever is happening not just in our country but worldwide, the coronavirus thing, it sure feels different. It sure feels unreal and unusual to leave off everything that we did on a daily basis, our daily routine, and just sit at home. Now that's what we call as the new normal. Keeping in mind the current scenario, the lockdown, and of course keeping in mind the motto of our college, that is Rabbi Zidni Ilma, we teachers at Maharashtra College, we are coming up with video lectures for our students, because no matter what, the teaching learning experience should still stay alive, it should persist, and it should continue. So here we are coming up with our video lectures. Of course, this is one of my very first video lecture today, and definitely it's a trial, but I do hope in the future we will have many such interactions and such a sharing of our ideas, our work, and our experience. Okay, so coming to economics, let me tell you that you guys are the first batch to this new syllabus. Just as last year in 11th standard you had a completely new syllabus, even this year you have a completely new syllabus. What a good thing that has happened this year is that some of the chapters which were there in the old syllabus have been removed. Now, when I say they have been removed, don't worry that you guys are missing onto something. No, it's not like that, because the chapters that are removed from the syllabus are either made compact and put in this particular textbook, in this particular syllabus, or they were already put into your 11th standard new syllabus. So you are not missing onto something. The syllabus has just become a little more organized, which will help you and I, both of us, to learn better. Okay, I hope all of you have the PDF of the new textbook which I had sent you on the WhatsApp group. If you will look at the index of this particular new textbook, you will find only 10 chapters, which are really very interesting. But to tell you, when you compare your 11th standard syllabus with your 12th standard syllabus, your 12th standard syllabus is a bit more technical. When I use this word technical, I mean that this year you have many diagrams to study, you have many schedules to study, and you have many laws to study. For example, in chapter number 2 you have the law of diminishing marginal utility, in chapter number 3 and in chapter number 4 you have the law of demand, the law of supply, and so on. So when we compare last year the 11th standard portion with 12th standard portion, the 11th standard portion was just a gist of the entire economics. But this year 12th standard syllabus is an in-depth study of each of those economic variables. Alright, so coming back to economics, before starting chapter number 1, we will just answer one general question which we always do in the beginning of our lecture. And that question is, what is economics? My dear students, it is not a very difficult word. The term economics is derived from a Greek word, oikonomia. I have written it here on the board, oikonomia, which simply means household management. Now, what is this household management? Very simple. All of us know that we have desires, we have wishes, we have certain wants that we have to fulfill on our daily basis. As we are human beings, we need to fulfill our desires and wishes. For example, I feel like going to a restaurant and having a pizza. This is my desire, this is my want, this is my wish. Now, how am I going to fulfill this wish of mine? If I have certain resource in my hand. What is the resource? The resource is the money that I have in my hand. If I have a certain amount of money in my hand, I'll be able to go to a shop, to a restaurant, buy myself a pizza and enjoy the pizza. So here, one basic thing that I require is the resource, is the money which I need to fulfill my want. Now, from where does this money come? This money comes when we earn something, when we do some work and we get the money. That is the money that we are earning. So on one hand, you have the money that is coming in, which is your income. And on the other hand, you have the money that is going out, that is your expenditure. So you have one side income coming in and you have the expenditure that goes out. Expenditure will obviously happen because we all are human beings, and to survive we need certain basic things. So for that basic things, of course, we will have to spend whatever income is coming. But a rational consumer is that person who gets an income, spends little or how much ever is required, and saves the rest of the amount of money. So here, how are you going to manage your income? The income which is coming to you, the resource which is coming to you is really very little. It is scarce resource. It is little resource. But on the other hand, your demands are more, your requirements are more, your needs and desires are more than the resource that you have. So what are you going to do? You are going to set up priorities. First basic priority. What comes next? What comes next? So according to your priorities, you are going to allocate your money to different sources, to different places where you are going to spend your money. For example, I have earned, say I have earned 5,000 rupees. Now, in that 5,000 rupees, I need to pay for my tuitions, I need to pay for my school, I need to pay for my clothes, I need to pay for my food, I need to pay for the electricity bill, I need to pay for the Wi-Fi bill. So what is the most important will come on top. You are going to allocate those 5,000 rupees into different fields, into different sections where what your requirements are. So basically, managing your income and your expenditure means economics. Now here we are talking on a very small scale, on a small level. That is the level of a single household. But in an economy, there are many such households. There are millions of households. There are millions of companies. There are millions of industries. There are millions of banks. So managing all those banks, all those households, all those institutions in the entire economy simply means economics. So I hope the thing is clear to you that economics is nothing but how to manage your resources, how to manage your income, and how to allocate your income to different sources. Now we come next to the first chapter of our textbook, that is Introduction to Micro and Macroeconomics. Now, micro and macro, I'm sure all of you remember what is micro and macro. Yes, these are the two branches of economics, microeconomics and macroeconomics. This sure rings the bell in your head because I do hope you remember that last year in 11th standard in chapter number 1, we came across these two words, microeconomics and macroeconomics, wherein we had studied the basic concepts of the two. I do hope you remember that. And I do hope you remember this name, Professor Kenneth Boulding, a very important name in economics, especially when you're studying micro and macro. This guy had given us the definition of micro and macroeconomics. I hope you remember that. Assuming that you remember that, we will quickly move on to these two words, micro and macro. From where have they arrived? What does that word mean? Okay, I have written on the board here, microeconomics and macroeconomics are two major branches of economics. These two have been derived from Greek words, just like the word economics is derived from a Greek word oikonomia, which means household management. Similarly, microeconomics and macroeconomics have been derived from Greek words, which means the Greek words which are mikros. Micro is derived from mikros and macro is derived from macros. What are the meanings? I have written it down here. Micro or mikros means something that is really very small, something that is really very tiny, or a millionth part, the smallest part of something. On the other hand, macro means something that is very big or something that is very large. Okay, I hope you have understood the literal meanings of these two words. Now, why small, why large? What is this small and what is this large? Very simple. Just one little thing that I would like to share with you is, here in micro you see the letter I. Here in mikros you see the letter I. Micro derived from mikros, which means small. Why there is an I here? Just for your information, I stands for individual. Alright? Now here there is the letter A. A. What does this A stand for? A here stands for all together or aggregate. All together or aggregate. Aggregate means a total of something. Now here, micro, I stands for individual. Why? Because microeconomics is that branch of economics which studies everything individually or everything in particular. For example, this is a huge economy. Alright, you have a big economy, Indian economy. In Indian economy, there are tiny firms, tiny household, tiny businesses, tiny banks. It is not possible to study all of these together. So what do the economists do? They divide the entire economy into small units, and they study each of these units individually and not together. So that is why you have an I over here. I stands for individual study, one by one or one at a time. On the other hand, you have A over here, which means all together. Here, macroeconomics is that branch of economics which is studying the entire, the total, the aggregate of the entire economy. It is not going to cut the economy into small units. It is not going to cut the economy into small bits and pieces. Rather, it is going to study the economy as a whole. So these two are the basic difference. A stands for all together or aggregate, and I stands for individual, one by one study, one at a time study. Now, I would like to share an example with you that most of the economists, they put forth. Economists say that microeconomics is just a study of a tree. But on the other hand, macroeconomics is the study of the entire forest. You got the difference? Macroeconomics is studying the entire country, the whole economy of that particular country all together. Whereas micro is studying only one tree, that is only one particular business, one particular household, one particular bank at one particular time. To give you a basic example, I would say that, for example, income. Income is a very important variable in economics. Now when I study the income of one particular person, that is a person's per capita income, it will come under microeconomics. But whereas if I study the income of all the people living in the economy, that is the sum total of every individual's earning, that will come under macroeconomics. So your national income is a broader concept, it is a big concept, so it will be coming under macroeconomics. But your personal per capita income is a narrower concept, and that is why it will come under individual study, that is microeconomics. So I hope you have understood so far the basic difference between the two. Okay, one very interesting example, rather I should say that it is a quote from a very renowned economist, Professor A.P. Lerner. He is a very well-known name in economics. He cites an example like, just as a human body is a very complex thing. You have a body which is seen outside, but inside you have lots of things that are happening in the human body. You have tiny cells, you have arteries, you have veins, you have bones, many millions of things inside one complex structure. Economics is just like a human body. When you're studying the entire human body as a whole, that will be macroeconomics. But on the other hand, when you're just picking up one cell of your human body and you're watching it through a microscope, when do we use a microscope? We use a microscope when we are studying something tiny in detail. So yes, that is microeconomics. Microeconomics means studying something in detail, something very small in detail. So this was the example which A.P. Lerner, he always puts forth. Now coming to the history of these two words, microeconomics and macroeconomics. When were they coined? Coining of these two words was a recent thing, but these two words, the concepts have existed even in the time of Adam Smith. I hope this rings the bell again. Adam Smith, he has written The Wealth of Nations. In his Wealth of Nations, there was some mention of individual and altogether aggregate in his book. Also after that, Professor Alfred Marshall, in his book The Principles of Economics, written in 1890, even he had thrown some light on micro and macro, on individual and aggregate. And then comes the time of the Great Depression, 1930, the Great Depression of America, where the entire world economy was thrashed, and that time Professor J.M. Keynes came up with his models, macroeconomic models. So these concepts are used by classical economists and neoclassical economists as well. But the main person who came up with these two words for the first time was Professor Ragnar Frisch. A very important name in economics, can be asked to you in objective type of question. Ragnar Frisch is the person who first used micro for individual study and macro for aggregate study. He has also won the Nobel Prize for his contributions in economics. So I hope you're clear so far. In chapter number 1, we have up to now completed only the definition and the meaning of micro and macroeconomics. What you will study next in this particular chapter is the feature of micro and macro both, the scope of micro and macro both, and lastly you are going to study the importance of these two in the current scenario. Towards the end of the chapter, you are going to compare how is micro different from macro. My dear students, it is not possible to remove microeconomics and macroeconomics from each other. If you need to have a complete knowledge of economics, you need to have both. Studying only micro and discarding macro will not give you the complete knowledge, and studying only macro and discarding micro will also not give you a complete knowledge. So for the thorough study of economics, you need to study both these branches simultaneously. So with that, I end my today's lecture. And before I end, one little task that I would like to give you. Think about microeconomics. I'm sure you all are at home, so no excuses. So think about microeconomics and then relate it to the current scenario, as in how individual consumers, that is we, and the individual producers, that is the shopkeepers, are affected in this COVID-19 situation. So I just want you to jot down a few points what has happened due to coronavirus. So thank you for listening. Your views, your comments, your feedback are more than welcome. We will be posting many such videos further, I do hope, and I'll be putting up links of certain articles that I have read on your WhatsApp group. Be sure to read them and give me feedback. And till then, please do like, subscribe to our college channel, and stay home, stay safe. Thank you.